the Dreamcatcher's curse. In the quiet town of Eldridge, nestled between thick woods and an eerie lake, a peculiar event unfolded every 50 years. The townsfolk called it the Week of Hands. Legends whispered that during this week, anyone who failed to escape the grasping hands appearing in their dreams would be trapped in eternal slumber, never to wake again. As the cursed week approached, the air in Eldridge grew thick with unease. Windows were boarded up, and families huddled together, whispering prayers and sharing tales of the past victims. Among them was Claire, a young woman who had recently moved to Eldridge, unaware of the town's dark secret. On the first night, Claire dreamt of walking through a misty forest. The moon cast an ethereal glow and everything seemed oddly serene. Suddenly, shadowy hands emerged from the ground, reaching for her. She awoke with a start, heart pounding, but dismissed it as just a nightmare. By the third night, the dreams became more intense. The hands multiplied, growing more desperate and relentless. Claire confided in her neighbour, Mrs. Harlow, an elderly woman with deep lines etched on her face from years of surviving the curse. Mrs. Harlow's eyes were grave as she handed Claire an old, tattered book. "These are the notes of those who survived," she explained. "Read them, and you might have a chance." Claire spent the next day studying the notes. They spoke of lucid dreaming, the art of controlling one's dreams, and the importance of staying calm. But the most crucial advice was to confront the hands directly, to find their source and end the curse. The sixth night arrived and Claire felt a cold dread settle over her. As she drifted into sleep, she found herself back in the forest. The hands came faster this time, clawing and pulling at her. Claire steeled herself, remembering the advice. She focused on her breathing, forcing the fear down, and started to move toward the hands. The journey was arduous. The hands were relentless, whispering dark promises of eternal rest. But Claire pressed on, driven by a fierce determination. Eventually, she reached a clearing where an ancient dreamcatcher hung from a gnarled tree. The hands were pouring out from its center, a pulsating vortex of darkness. With a deep breath, Claire reached out and grabbed the dreamcatcher. The hands flailed wildly, but she held firm. Summoning all her strength, she tore it from the tree and shattered it against the ground. For a moment, everything went still. The hands disintegrated into shadows, and the forest dissolved into a peaceful dawn. Claire awoke, drenched in sweat but victorious. As she looked out her window, she saw the first light of morning breaking over Eldridge. But something was wrong. The town was eerily silent. Claire hurried outside, only to find the streets empty. Doors hung open, and belongings were scattered as if people had vanished in the middle of their daily routines. Desperate, Claire ran to Mrs. Harlow's house. She found the elderly woman in her bed, eyes closed, breathing shallow. Claire shook her, calling her name, but Mrs. Harlow did not stir. She was trapped, just like the others. Realization dawned on Claire with a crushing weight. She had destroyed the dreamcatcher, but the curse was not broken. It had only been unleashed upon the waking world. The hands, no longer confined to dreams, had taken the townsfolk while they were awake. Claire wandered through the empty town, the weight of her mistake pressing down on her. She was alone in a world that had slipped into an eternal nightmare. As days turned to weeks, the silence of Eldridge became a deafening reminder of her failure.